Hello, hello, what's up? We have a new chapter of One Piece. I imagine this chapter is going to be pretty crazy because we're seeing stuff from the Reverie. We're seeing the gigantic twists of what actually happened during the Reverie. We're seeing Cobra's audience with the five elders. All sorts of crazy crap could happen for sure. But luckily, I haven't been spoiled as to anything, even though I know this chapter has generated a lot of discussion and was trending on Twitter and all sorts of other stuff. Because instead, all of the discourse has been focused around this color spread right here. Namely, that Best Boy, the son of Kaido, and the reincarnation of Odin, Yamato, is included with all the girls, even though he's a boy. Even though he self identifies as a man and uses masculine pronouns and is basically FTM and in many other instances is not lumped in with the girls. And people are like, is Oda going back on his previous progressiveness, you know? Not that he's been flawless, but Oda has always been one of the most supportive of trans characters and characters with non-traditional gender identities and all sorts of stuff with things like the Okama Kingdom being full of just awesome, powerful, revolutionary, anti-government, anti-control, anti-fascist types of characters, and you know, Mr. Two Bon Clay just being the most awesome dude on the planet, and then with Yamato self-identifying as a man and everyone supporting that and respecting that. So again, you can say this is an instance of Oda being imperfect, Oda having his heart in the right place, but maybe not being super consistent or understanding exactly how far he should go with certain things. We can also attribute this to Oda liking to draw boobs and putting all sorts of characters with boobs on one page. And Yamato has boobs. It's obvious. Men can have boobs too. It happens. Just like, you know, any other combination of gender and body, it's there. So Yamato gets invited to Boob Club. Many possible explanations, but you know, whatever. In the end, it's not a big deal. Like, I'd say even the most uncharitable, unfortunate interpretation of this spread doesn't do much to undo the positive things Oda has done around trans representation in shonen, which is very rare indeed. But yeah, it's a fun spread otherwise. I don't know, there's a lot of boobs. It's like a fun scenario. I like that there's big inflatable versions of the Going Merry and the Thousand Sunny. I like that a lot of more obscure characters got a little chance to be in the spotlight here. Yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. Let's move on to the actual chapter, which, as I said, I'm sure is going to be absolutely effing crazy. The attempted murder of a celestial dragon is what this one is called, which is, you know, spicy enough on its own. Sabo here encountering Bonnie. I think we're after the same things. Bonnie's still knowing way more than she lets on and being way more involved in all this stuff than she lets on. Even after having, you know, the spotlight and having some big revelations around her and kind of having some like emotional connection with her. So again, it's like we started Egghead. Now we've taken this long extended break from Egghead. And I think this break will continue until we finally understand the true history and context of like Kuma and Bonnie and that whole kingdom and what Kuma was trying to do. And then we'll circle back to Egghead, now fully understanding the ramifications of what's happening there. I think is the game plan, but we'll see. So yeah, they run into Bonnie. The slaves are getting freed. I heard that Kuma had a daughter. Following news articles about the Revolutionary Army's activities, which is why I trust you guys. Take my father to safety. So yeah, you're trying to get Kuma. That's one of the big goals of this whole raid on Marijois. Once Kuma and their slaves are out of their chains, they're to return to headquarters. The mission is over. Be right behind you once I've taken care of some business. Okay. Sure. Go to Egghead and ask Vegapunk if he has a way to bring my father to his senses. That's what we were seeing in the main story in present day. Sure. They escaped quickly. When people go missing, it's usually because they saw it. Something they shouldn't have. Like the Lost Chamber. I really like this. Even though, you know, we're not getting like a full-on arc in Marijois, very likely. Even though we probably already know what the Lost Chamber is. I think it's the one that has the giant straw hat. Do you remember that? There's so much crazy stuff in One Piece where Im was hanging out. But I like the way they've set this up that, like, among the guards, there's this mysteriousness and suspicion and rumors and things you shouldn't talk about. I think that's just, like, very nice natural world building. That even though we're not going to explore this perspective much, there's little hints at how does this weird castle full of secrets and mysteries feel like to the guards. Okay. Things see in the opposite direction. Best of luck. Missionaries doing favors like this. Take care of Dad. Okay, then we're back to Cobra and his audience in the, what is this room called? The throne with no occupant or whatever, the unoccupied throne room. World government, as we know, began 800 years ago today when it was created by a group of 20 kings. As the newly styled creators of the world, they moved here to Marijois with their family, where they became known as Celestial Dragons and have ruled over the world, as a Freudian slip, ruled over the world for the ancient centuries since. Okay. It's giving this spiel, they all know it. We're seeing their live reactions unscripted. It seems like they expect that he's going in a direction that they don't like, but it is what it is. Amongst themselves, the 20 kings have always been equal. To prevent one from ruling over the others as a dictator, they created the Empty Throne. That's what it's called, the Empty Throne room. But that makes it sound like the room is empty. The room which contains an empty throne. Place 20 weapons around it to symbolize their oath to never claim that seat. Cool, yes, we know all this. It was explained when we first saw it. But, you know, it's good to have a refresher because that was like 5 years ago now. The 20 kingdoms that had lost their royal families, new kings were chosen whose rule continues to this day. Therefore, the first 20 dynasties' names are no longer found in the lands from whence they came. Stuff like Doflamingo taking over Dressrosa, right? I guess a lot of instances like that happened. Alabasta is different. The monarch at that time, Queen Lily of the Nefeltari dynasty, was counted among the first 20, but did not become a celestial dragon, choosing to return to Alabasta and continue the Nefeltari line in her homeland where the name still reigns. That's right, and that was something that was established pretty early on as a way to kind of differentiate Cobra from all these huge fucking assholes, right? Like, it's possible that one of the celestial dragons has some remorse, like the Doflamingo family did before Don Quixote, the Don Quixote family did before Doflamingo was like, nah, I actually want to be almighty. But generally speaking, they've been involved in some really, really heinous shit and are, you know, principally responsible for the wretched state of the world in One Piece. So it makes sense that Cobra, who's generally a nice dude, and his whole royal family, who are generally reasonable people, aren't directly involved in that. That is why in actuality there's only 19 weapons surrounding the throne. What is your point? It's going through old historical documents from a royal library. The only history you can peruse there comes from documents after the span of the Void Century, and yet there is no mention of Queen Lily's name. She did not come back to rule Alabasta after that. Lily's younger brother took the throne in Alabasta instead. Anything you might be able to tell me about her? Oh, they killed her. I think they probably just killed her. And I think this is why there's this ominous feeling right here. They killed her. That's what you wanted to ask? And then all of this being relayed to Im in their weird little creepy garden here. 800 years ago, recorded fact that the ruler from the Nefeltari dynasty did not live here. We assume she had gone back home, whatever her reasons or actions were. Long lost to the cobwebs of time, I'm sorry, I cannot help you. In that case, what is the D? There is a brief 800-year-old letter that is passed down through our line of kings. Ooh. The Will of D. It's literally a will. Literally a physical document that has been passed down. We could see here. I mean, obviously they're not just going to straight up answer. But Cobra might already know and might be baiting. At any rate, we might actually learn what the Will of D is. Which is, of course, one of the most fundamental mysteries in the entire series. Something first mentioned way back in Drum Island. I'm pretty sure, what's-her-face, the old witch doctor, talks about how Gold D. Roger and then Monkey D. Luffy, and she talks about the Will of D lives on. She says something to this effect, or at least she calls out that initialism. And that was, like, in chapter 130 or 140, probably. So it's been a while. It's been, decades since this was first introduced. And we might actually find out what the Will of D is. Now, what I assumed was that basically it was like the kingdom, the ancient kingdom that has been wiped out and censored, that had all this advanced technology that we learned about on Egghead. At that time, the Will of D was some sort of like naming tradition that certain people that they believed auspiciously had the potential to change the world, that were like the heroes of that time, were given the middle initial D as some signification of that hope, that promise. And that despite this kingdom being wiped out and all this stuff being censored, that tradition has lived on, even though maybe none of the people who are doing it now really understand it. And we don't really understand, the circumstances of the birth of most of the Ds. Luffy, we still don't know who his mother was. We don't know when he was born. Law, we know his early childhood on, but we don't really know his parentage or why they would have named him that. Jaguar D. Saul, giant that's in the Marines, probably born in Elbaf. We don't know why he was given the initial D. Roger, we don't know anything about his early life or where this could have come from. So it's kind of like, how did this information propagate? How did these people decide that they were worthy of bestowing that initial? We don't know. Or am I totally wrong and there's some other force in here that just like supernaturally, divinely blesses people with that initial? I don't know. But I think those are really the only two realistic theories. And the second one doesn't even sound so realistic. It's either some supernatural force or it's this underground tradition or something. And we might find out. We might find out if Cobra explains what this letter is and they don't just insta-kill him before he says another word. We might also find out what it stands for. Now we have devil fruits. And devil fruits have something to do with this enduring will, that they have willpower of their own. And through these like bloodline factors, people inherit those will forces or whatever. This has been discussed as recently as Egghead and implied as early as, a million years ago. So similarly, the D could stand for like devil or something. I don't know. Let's find out. Oh, we cut away. Oh my god. It's Shirahoshi getting captured. Oh man, poor Shirahoshi. Ordering Kuma to kidnap Shirahoshi. Take you on walks every day. Let me be riding you. St. Carlos, this fucking bastard. I hope he dies a horrible death. Popping the guards of the council tote. One option. They all run away, refusing to act like they even saw it. This heinous crime being committed before their very eyes. Ryugu Princess coming back, fighting them off, way stronger than anybody here, except for, I guess, the enslaved Kuma. So now this is becoming the real crux, because this is where Sabo and Bonnie want to be to help Kuma. Yeah, my invincible slave Kuma. It's pay enough money, and even royalty will let us get away with it, especially measly Fishman. Yeah, all these themes coming back, like, I don't know, it's like, Fishman Island was so long ago, and it was so self-contained. Like, there has been so little ramifications directly of the stuff that happened there. It's cool to see these guys again, and it's cool to kind of see these themes reoccur, that, like, the Fishmen are so second, third, 12th class citizens that during the Reverie, they're being kidnapped and enslaved and stuff, and there's really nothing they can do about it. Which was, of course, their very reasonable hesitation to go to the Reverie in the first place. Is like, we're going to get treated like shit. And they are. So it's like, cool. Cool doesn't seem like the right word. It's interesting to see these themes, like, reoccur. These payoffs from such a self-contained arc from so long ago. Whoa, the Beatles are here? The little people? I don't know why I called them Beatles. They ride around on Beatles. The little people, the Tonetta of Dressrosa, have come with Rebecca and her father, Kairos. Nice, nice. All the royalty. The Hapo army, Sai. This is cool. And it's like all these people are allied with Luffy, too. Like, you're seeing how, even though they're acting independently, their causes are being allied. And it's like they also were influenced and enabled and empowered by Luffy. We're seeing, like, the ramifications, the ripples and after effects of his actions. So yeah. Trying to keep the royalty from not being involved. And saying, you know, just let the pirates take care of it. Because what consequences can they even face? Sick. Fucking up St. Carlos. Excellent, excellent. The murder of a celestial dragon. The admirals will be on their way. They're already here in Marijois, at least 2 of them. Very satisfying. It's been a long time since Luffy decked this guy, but now he's getting in spades. Cool. I was complaining before that, like, a lot of fight scenes now are just, like, the 2 guys, like, do their attack. And then we, like, move on. The pacing is too fast now for, like, big choreographed fight scenes. But in situations like this, you can see why Oda really likes doing them, because they're just so satisfying. Like, just one big flashy attack, and that takes care of it. Woo! And then the revolutionaries scooping up Kuma at the last moment. Morley freeing Kuma, abducting him to de-brainwash him. Carlos, still this little pancake boy. Okay, but I don't... Can I hear about the will of... Ooh! Sheesh. Great Emu. The King Cobra is still present. Emu sits upon the empty throne. Okay. Well, this is why Cobra died. You weren't supposed to see that. Alright. Okay. Interesting. Crazy. We didn't get to hear what the Will of D was. Maybe next week. We didn't learn what Emu was. Maybe next week. We didn't find out, you know, anything. Well, we learned a little bit, but it seems like they're still just edging us closer and closer to the big revelations. But they could be coming. Or we could cut back to Egghead. Or we could cut back to Edward Weevil trying to track down the survivors of his dad's crew. Or we could suddenly be at Albath talking to Jaguar G. Saul about the books that they recovered from O'Hara. Or a million other things. So who even knows? But we will eagerly await the next chapter, which I hope will be in just about a week. Bye-bye!